returned from a business trip on a Thursday night of early October, back in 2019. Jetlagged, he crashed into bed before 9 p.m. came around and instantly fell asleep. So when his doorbell rang, he didn't answer the door, nor did he even wake up. The next morning, he noticed his Ring camera captured overnight footage. He watched it and saw this person dressed up in a creepy costume, holding a Halloween-themed lollipop. There were no recordings captured the night prior, which likely meant this individual had waited for them to return home before coming up to their doorstep. The homeowner in question posted this footage online, extremely creeped out but mostly horrified at the thought of what would have happened had he been awake and answered the door, only to come face to face with this disguised stranger. This next clip captured evidence of domestic abuse. At the time this was recorded, both parents were not only going through a divorce, but also through a legal battle to get full custody of their 3-year-old daughter. The mother allegedly lied in court to gain the judge's favor and make her ex-husband appear incapable of providing proper care for their daughter. Ultimately, she won full custody. This is what happened after the court hearing. The man first chased his ex-wife in his car, which he noticed after a few miles of being tailed, then ran after her as she tried to hide inside her sister's house, which is where she had been staying for the past few months. It's likely this outburst stemmed from the anger and heartbreak following the repercussions of the wife's lie, one that caused the man to lose a significant place in his daughter's life. That being said, domestic violence is never justified, and the footage was sent to the police the very next morning. In the dead of night, this doorbell camera recorded the audio of an attempted kidnapping. Thanks to many neighbors who heard the girl scream and didn't waste time in calling the police, the girl made it out physically unharmed after her aggressor fled the scene. Police reports would later reveal what truly happened. The girl was out with friends at a bar. Later, the friends began to walk back home together, but the group grew smaller and smaller until the girl was eventually left alone, with little distance to cover until she made it back to her place. That's when a truck with 3 men pulled up to her and tried to force her into the back of their vehicle.
She looked like she was trying to get out, and he snatched her head back and he sped it out.
One of these men the girl recognized as the guy she'd been dancing with. If the girl hadn't been able to scream and call for help, or had she been in a less populated area, who knows the horror that might have befallen her. In this 4th clip, a creepy visitor wearing a bag to hide their face came up to this homeowner's doorstep and left what later would be revealed to be a voodoo doll. Though the footage is glitchy, the homeowner can be seen taking it out of its plastic bag before examining it. He quickly returns back inside, but forgets to lock the front door, probably due to the shock of what he would come across in his kitchen. A second man, dressed in similar attire as the first, waiting for him. The homeowner screams as he's being attacked, and that's when the first visitor comes back into view on the front lawn and finally enters. Against all odds, the homeowner would survive the ordeal, and what he revealed to police would categorize this incident as some kind of cult ritual. A doorbell camera captured a small masked figure wearing the head of a porcelain doll walking up to their doorstep at night. It appeared to play a loud recording of children chanting and screaming with what we can only assume was an intent to scare. But the real questions remain unanswered. Why would a child do this? And how was this child even outside at this ungodly hour? Could this stunt have been carefully planned by an adult? Or does this recording actually have much darker implications? Inside this family-friendly neighborhood, the homeowners wonder if this may have been one of their neighbor's children hoping to pull a prank. Regardless, there's no denying how messed up this is, and the homeowners grow wary, knowing they may never find out who is behind this act. This next blood-curdling clip speaks for itself. A man who was clearly not in his right mind, perhaps intoxicated, perhaps indulging the demons in his head, walked up to a doorbell camera in the middle of the night and began talking to whoever was inside, asking them, "What do I do?" It's clear he was in some sort of psychological distress, but what is even scarier is the fact that he stayed there and mumbled for 2 hours straight. Could he have been referring to something he committed, even a murder perhaps? The homeowners can only try to forget about this nighttime visitor and pray he never returns to their doorstep. In this footage, the recording begins after the doorbell button is pushed, as we can clearly hear. However, there is no one there to ring it, let alone any sort of movement that would explain how the doorbell button was physically pushed. To make matters even stranger, the moving shadows reflecting on the roof of the porch have no logical shape, resembling the distortion of moving water. Many viewers have shared their opinions of what truly was at play here, and almost all of them conclude that it had to involve some sort of metaphysical entity. Whether it dipped into the realm of demonic activity or not remains unknown. This footage was submitted by the father of a family of 4 who lives down the residential area of Ann Arbor, Michigan. The family were having a birthday party for their youngest child, a girl of 8, where both family and friends were invited. The parents had hired a clown animator for the afternoon, but when 1 p.m. came around, no one showed up. An hour later, the mother called the number she used to hire the clown, but there was no answer. The parents figured they had been cheated, having already left a significant deposit the day before, but didn't think much more of it and carried on with the festivities. When night came, however, the doorbell camera sent an alert straight to the father's phone after it captured this. This footage came from a woman who, at the time, worked as a flight attendant for an American airline. One day, during a flight where everything seemed to be running smoothly, the woman noticed a passenger aboard the plane who was incessantly staring at her. He was seated in the economy class section, alone, not accompanied by friends or family members. Being a flight attendant in her early 30s, she would often be the object of clumsy flirting from male passengers, but it never crossed any line and was generally harmless. In those instances, she'd move on with her day and stay focused, but for some reason, she couldn't shake off that particular man's stare, eyes wide open, almost without blinking, clinging to her. The woman was immensely relieved when the plane landed and her shift ended, but she didn't know that relief would only be short-lived. After bidding her coworkers goodbye, she got into her car and drove home, then took a shower to clean the day off before hopping into bed. The next morning, however, she got an alert from her doorbell camera, and what she saw was the same passenger from that flight doing something that made her skin crawl with disgust. A couple in their mid-30s sent this backyard footage to a news station after being completely freaked out by what they saw. Alone, the presence of an unidentifiable, possibly paranormal shadow may not ruffle many people's feathers, but with context, it's a completely different story. This couple had actually been experiencing an array of strange occurrences inside their apartment. Objects moving overnight, gusts of wind in rooms without windows. Even what they swore sounded like a woman weeping at night. The couple had been running on little sleep for weeks and were considering reaching out for help. But when they saw this footage and the visible proof confirming their deepest fears, they instantly called the paranormal expert and begged him to come over. Unfortunately, they have yet to release an update.